Can I buy separate policies for the children in my home for car coverage? We all have different cars.
Well, you can in some cases, yes. It really depends on what your motive is. Why are you doing that?
Well, my oldest son isn't home very often from college, and he is not going to ever drive my convertible. It won't happen. Not only does he not fit in it, but he's never going to touch it. So why should I pay for this young man who's considered at higher risk than I, his older, mature mother, who's a good driver? Would I pay for coverage for him to drive around my expensive car that he's never going to be even allowed in because he's a boy?
Well, to answer that question, yes, you can do that. What that entails generally are two different insurance carriers, one of which has driver exclusions in place. What that would mean is that, let's say that you and your husband have newer vehicles, more expensive vehicles, and you are trying to avoid paying the higher premium for having teenagers on that policy. And yes, you can do that, and yes, it's done quite often. What happens then is that on the parent's policy, the kids are excluded from coverage, and then a separate policy is taken out, usually with the husband and wife on that policy as well, and the teenagers, and only those vehicles that they drive are included under that policy. The parents can drive all the cars, the children cannot. But I've been telling people for so many years that that is why it might be a viable option if they should ever drive that car. And regretfully, it just happens all the time. If they should ever get in that new convertible and drive it, there is no insurance whatsoever. The company does not have a only this one-time driving insurance clause. That would mean that there was no insurance. That car that is now up in the tree is completely uninsured. So before you ever sign a driver exclusion, you have to understand that it's always a driver exclusion. And that can be a problem. You're on vacation, you want the child to drive, guess what? He cannot drive. Let's say that you're going to the hospital, you can't drive you to the hospital. Let's say that the wife was out having a cocktail, the son can't drive her home in her new convertible because there's no insurance. So before you ever do anything like that, you need to talk to your local Focus insurance agent. Make sure you understand just how it works.
What about medical coverage? Is that the same if they're an excluded driver and they're hurt? Are their injuries covered?
No, they're not. And the reason for that is that before a medical claim can be made, you cannot be a member of the family. A lot of people don't understand, but you cannot be liable to your own family. So the medical payment coverage applies only to passengers in your car who are not in your family.
But Focus is going to be able to guide me through this.
Absolutely. A Focus agent will go through each and every scenario with you. Make sure you have all the coverage you need.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was in the honeymoon